meat, what I want more than anything else is I want to be able to cook up 3, 4, 5 meals and all at once, do all the cleanup once, do all the cooking once. I don't enjoy cooking. I certainly don't enjoy cleaning afterwards. And then I want to eat those meals for 4, maybe 5 days, and that means refrigeration. So no question in my mind, I've always had and will always have refrigeration. Again, if you don't need it, thumbs up. You simplified your life, saved yourself a lot of money. But if you do, then should you get an ice chest or should you spend the money for one of these? Now this is a 12-volt compressor fridge. Let me just define what this is. They can easily run off solar. If you have 200 watts of solar, you can easily run one of these. I've been doing it for years and years. I know for a fact that if you have 200 watts of solar and you're not using, you could use so much other stuff that it wouldn't work, but the average person can get by with 200 watts. In the winter, you'll get less out of the 200 watts, but this will come on less. So it balances out. 200 watts of solar will get you by on one of these real well. Solar's no problem. They have such a low draw. Most of them draw around 50 watts, about 4 amps, but they're only coming on 2, 4, 6 hours a day at 4 amps. That's 24 amps. Well, even if you just have a single battery, you're probably going to get by with that because a lot of that will be during the day when it's hot, and you're replenishing it. If you have enough solar, you're replenishing it as it comes out. So should you get an ice chest or one of these? Agreed. Now, let's talk about the disadvantages of an ice chest. Well, first off, there's buying ice. And if you run out of ice, it's an emergency trip to town to get ice. And it's storing ice in here and food. And I have thrown away, over the years that I've used an ice chest, which is a lot, before I had solar, I only used ice. I've thrown away a lot of food. I probably thrown away hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars worth of food because it got contaminated and got wet and I threw it away. Or I couldn't get into town quick enough and it all warmed up and I was afraid to eat it and I threw it away because I thought it got too warm. So there's a lot of waste in food. You're buying ice. I figure you're going to spend a minimum of $5 a week on ice. That's probably 2 bags of ice. Now, believe me, I've been in a lot of remote places where it was $2 a bag would have been cheap, really cheap. And that's assuming 2 bags a week is enough. And in the summer when it's 80, 90 degrees outside, it is not enough. You'll use more than 2 bags, I'll guarantee it. Even if you're using blocks. Blocks last a lot longer. Blocks are harder to find. They usually cost more. A minimum of $5 a week, and I think a much more realistic average year-round is $10 a week. But we'll go with the low number. $5 a week times 52 weeks a year is $260. Well, it just so happened that this fridge costs $269. So if you can come up with $269, you will have paid for this thing in 1 year in ice. I will guarantee you that. And you already have the solar. So economically, it only makes sense. Now, I think where I go out and camp in the middle of nowhere. It's not $2 a bag. First, it's a 10, 20-mile trip to the nearest ice. And that's gas I'm burning to get the ice every 2, 3 days, or once or twice a week at minimum. And then when I get there, I've paid $5 for a bag of ice in a little store in the middle of absolutely nowhere. I think this thing at $269, that's what I paid for this, free shipping. I think this thing could pay for itself in 6 months. It will certainly pay for itself in the first year. Then after that, it's free. You just because you're not buying ice anymore. So to my mind, the economics work. If you don't have $269, that doesn't change the fact that you would be far better off with one of these than you would be in buying ice. So that raises the question of, should you buy a cheap one? This is $269, and this is pretty cheap. You can get them for less. You can get them as low as $200. Should you spend $200 to $250 on one of these? Or should you spend $500 to $600 for a medium quality brand? Or should you spend $1,000 for a high quality brand? So there's 3 different tiers, in my thinking, there's 3 different tiers of fridges. There's this bottom Chinese no-name fridges. So this is a Joy Tudis, okay? That's Chinese no-name. That's the bottom line. So they're Chinese no-name. They're smaller. You don't know who made any part of it. You don't know who made the compressor. You're just guessing, and you're buying a fridge, hoping it lasts. Now, a step up above from that are the high quality brand name. To me, the big one is Dometic. And I have owned, personally, I've owned one Dometic fridge, and it lasted me 5 years, and then it failed, and I threw it away. But I've had numerous friends who've owned Dometics, and they have failed after 1, 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years. And they're going to be the small ones. I bought a 25 quart, and it's going to be $400, $450, double this. Basically, it's just going to be about double this for about the same size. And then you can buy the Dometic, and I bought a truck fridge. There is Indel B. There are a number of middle tier brand names. Names that you know, they're using a good compressor, and they're Chinese ones too in that middle tier. They're going to be between $400 and $600 for a between 40 and 60 quart. And then you've got the top tiers, and that would be ARB and Engel. And they're $900 and up. The cheapest Engel on Amazon right this minute is $915. The cheapest ARB that I saw was $980. So these are top tier brand names, $900 and up. An ARB 60 quart is $1,034. So they're big and expensive. And my thinking has been to buy the middle tier because you'll get enough lifetime that it's worth buying not buying the cheap ones. And it's just so expensive, $900 to $1,000 to buy one of the high quality ones. I've known numerous people who've owned Engels, and I have never heard of a single person who bought an Engel that had it fail. They are the king of 12-volt fridge reliability. But it's almost 5 times as much as this. Will it last 5 times longer than this will? And my answer is it probably will not. I can't imagine that it will last 5 times longer. So, and who among us has the $900 to $1,000 to put out up front to buy it? Here's my bottom line. When I think about the economics of the 3 tiers, I have decided to buy cheap ones because I believe the cheap ones will last me as long as the middle tier. I really do. I hate to buy something knowing it's going to die and I'm going to throw it away. But I bought my Dometic because I thought it was a high quality product and it would last me forever. It lasted 5 years, and then I threw it away. It's in the dump. And then I bought a winter, and I sold the winter after 3 years, so it lasted me 3 years, so that's good. And then I sold, it would only fit in the trailer, it couldn't fit in my van, it was too big. It was a 60 quart and it wasn't gonna fit in the van with me. So I had a cargo trailer that I lived in, and so when I sold the cargo trailer, the winter went with it, and I replaced it with a truck fridge. So I've been in a truck fridge now for the last 3 years. 3 years or 4 years, I forget which, and it just failed, and it's in the landfill now. The problem is, you can't practically get these things fixed. So I bought the truck fridge. I paid, how much was that? I paid $5.50 for the truck fridge, and it was $50 for shipping, so I paid $600 for the truck fridge. It was an Indel B, which is a good brand name. It's Italian. It had a Danfoss compressor. My thinking is the Danfoss compressor will last longer. It will be better. Well, it wasn't for me. My experience has been universally that the medium tier, you're lucky if you get 5 years, and you might probably get less. That's been both my personal experience and the people that I talk to. So I'm just done with the middle tier, the Dometics, the truck fridge.
Right.
If it's going to fail after a year to 3 years, probably, then I'm going to buy a cheap one, which I think will get me 1 to 3 years, and then I'll throw it away. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, Bob, those are all a lot big freezers. Those are much bigger fridges. Those are all 40 to 60 quarts. This is only 26 quarts. Well, here's the funny thing about it. When I went and emptied my truck fridge into the 20 quart, it took everything out of it, and it wasn't full. I was low. Fortunately, I was low when it died on me. They're this much taller, and the bottom is so hard to work with that I fill the bottom up with stuff to raise it, because I don't want to go all the way from the bottom here up to about here and have to dig down to get all my stuff. So I filled the bottom in with other things, and I will try to explain to you what it is, but I lost about the bottom 4 inches, and I usually didn't use the top 3 or 4 inches. And so the bottom line was, I was probably using about the same 26 quarts, because this 26 quarts and this one will be 100% usable. So if you want cold foods, cold beverages,
if we could see the wound of truth and everything, if we could.
Going.
Is I'm going to hook up this to a power station and power it on. I'm going to set it at 0 degrees and get it down to freezing temperature and see how much power it pulls and, you know, just what it's like when it's turned on. So take this power cable out. This is just a 12-volt power cord, and plug it in to this port right here. And it's nice that they have a 90-degree angle, so you don't have just a cord sticking straight out of the side. It's nice and slim, and you can, you know, tuck this away in a nice, neat place. One thing that you do have to consider is you don't want to stack anything around any of these vents. On this side, this side, this side, and this side. But that's the only place that you need to keep open. You can have tent packed in here or clothes anywhere else around this unit. And I've actually heard from people that if you do pack, say you put a blanket over this, that'll actually insulate it and keep the cold temperatures inside, so it doesn't use quite as much power. So you might want to do that. Put a little thermal blanket over this or something to insulate this, but make sure you keep all of these open.
You think expose like a couple inches for the fans to be able to work?
Yeah, you're going to want at least a couple inches on each side so that there's plenty of airflow all the way around this. So you definitely don't want to pack anything in tight on any of this side of the cooler. So right here I have Bluetti EB70S, and I'm going to plug this in. Let's turn this on. Okay, we have power. I'm going to open the cigarette adapter, plug this in, and then hit the power button. Okay. I've got power to the fridge. It's plugged into the 12-volt output. I can see that it says 68 degrees right now, and I'm gonna turn the power down. It's very hard to see in the sun, so I'm not really gonna try to show you what the display looks like. I'll just tell you. But here we go. I'm turning it down to
Already going.
Okay, now I have it set at 0 degrees and it's running. It's extremely quiet. You can just hear a small fan running. The compressor, when it kicked on, sounded similar to my big 45 quart fridge that I have in the bread truck. So you can hear the compressor running. It's definitely working. I can feel a slight vibration from it, but it's very quiet, pretty sleek. I mean, this is a very sleek package. And now I'm going to look at it. Okay, so on the Bluetti, I can see that it's taking 25 watts right now. So that's all it takes to run this is 25 watts. I saw when it first kicked on, it went up to 35 watts. So it's a very small amount of power. You can run this on pretty much any system. I think even the smallest Jackery that I have is a 240. I'm pretty sure that would run this no problem. So yeah, we're gonna let this run for a while and let it get down to temperature and just see like how long it takes and all that kind of thing.
How many watts does our big fridge pull?
The big fridge might take a little bit more, maybe 40 watts or so. I'm not quite sure, but it does take a little bit more than this. But 25 watts is a very small amount of power for it to pull. And I took these cans out. We have some LaCroix. We're gonna load these into the fridge just to give you an idea of the capacity. So it can hold a can holding, you know, sitting straight up. In the pictures, they showed the cans in here like this, and we'll just load it full of cans, and you can kind of see, give you a reference of size on how much this can hold. So it holds about 5 cans across, and it has enough room to hold them side by side, so you can do 10 down here. It looks like you can hold 20 cans to me. You know, if it said 17 cans, I believe, in the information online, but you could do 2 rows on the bottom and 2 rows on the top and hold 20 cans, it looks like to me. So
probably about 4 standard packages of meat or something.
Oh,
maybe even more.
I would say more. I would say 6 to 8, like, you know, of those styrofoam trays that are about this big. I would say you could put probably 6 to 8 in here
That's
of meat.
really quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very small space, but I'm only working with the very small space, so it needs to be small, and I think this is gonna work great. I'm super excited about this, honestly. I wanted a freezer for my vehicle, but I just didn't know if I would fit it in, and I found this one on Amazon, and the link will be in the description of this video below for Set Power fridges. They have all different sizes, up to 85 quart, dual zone. They have every range of size, and Set Power is a brand that I'm familiar with, and they're very reputable. I mean, people are happy with their products. They work great, and I'll give you a long-term review on this fridge, you know, in a month or two after I've used it for a while, and I can verify that it does perform well. So I'm gonna take these cans out right now because I don't want them to freeze. And I have this, it's gonna be all the way down to 0 degrees, and we'll see how long it takes to get to that temperature. And hopefully it don't take too long. I imagine these things usually cool off really fast. So yeah, we'll check in just a minute. This fridge freezer does have 2 different modes that you can have it in. Right now it's in eco mode. And I'm not sure what the difference is, like how the settings work, but it's in eco mode right now. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it onto max mode. And all you have to do is just press the setting, the little gear icon there, and that'll switch it from eco mode to max mode. Right now it says it's 51 degrees and dropping fast. It just said 53 a second ago. So I think this is going to be getting down to 0 degrees in no time. I imagine 10-15 minutes at the most.
I know it's kind of hard for us to see on camera, but can you tell us what buttons are on the display?
Yeah, sure thing. On this side, there's a plus button. That's to increase the temperature you want to store it at. So say you want to use it as a fridge, you can just set it at, you know, 35 degrees or something like that. This side is the minus button. So you're just going to adjust it by pushing these 2 buttons here. It's a touch screen display. On the bottom is a power button. And let me see. Yeah, the nice thing about the power button is it requires a long press to turn it off. So if you accidentally tap it or something, that's not going to turn off your fridge. You're going to need to hold that for 3 seconds to actually turn it off. And then, see, we're down to 48 degrees already, and it's been less than 5 minutes. And then to switch from eco mode to max, you're going to press this gear icon that will change it from eco to max mode. And I'm not really sure about the difference between those, but I'll experiment with it and kind of see if the power consumption changes between those 2 modes. Another thing this has is a low voltage cutoff. So say your battery's getting down low, you can set this to cut off at whatever voltage you want so that it's not damaging your batteries. That's another nice feature about this, is you can set it so that it doesn't drain your batteries all the way down. You can set it at a pretty high voltage if you want to conserve power for your laptop or your cell phone or something like that. You could have this cut off when your batteries get down to 50%, and then you can you know, have reserve battery for whatever other devices or lights that you might need, things like that.
Nothing dazzling CMF Phone 2 Pro. And in a very weird kind of way, this is the phone that I've been most excited about in 2025. Because if you remember the CMF Phone 1 from last year, that thing came out of nowhere, introduced an entirely new ecosystem of accessories that you could very literally screw into the device. It was an actually amazing phone, even outside of those accessories, and was only priced at £200 or $250. It was so good that I ended up awarding the thing Budget Phone of the Year. And
Someone very dear to me from my time in Germany. Someone very dear to me from my time in Germany. Every time I return to Germany, that memory resurfaces. A brutal reminder of why we must do everything in our power to stop the Nazi advancement. Agreed. Yes. Agreed.
Yep.
Let's see what we can get done. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yep.
now we have the sequel. It's a little bit more expensive at £219, but it's claiming to be able to do so much more that if it actually pulls it off, this is going to become like the most instantly recommendable phone on the planet. So this is the box I got. There's a whole truckload of stuff inside, so let's just get rid of that. And let's start with a new wallet and stand. Well, that's already pretty interesting that they've managed to combine both of those things. There's another new accessory here. Interchangeable lenses. Well, that's interesting. Let me take you back to the last video a second.
My mind is kind of whirring at the possibilities. Like, I'm just thinking as an example, what if you use this screw and this screw to add a permanent lens attachment to your cameras?
Yes.
And now they're a real thing. Oh, The universal cover, which, as you'll see, works quite differently to how it used to, doesn't feel all that premium. It's a little flimsy. There's a lanyard. This looks like the same as the one you got with the last phone. Why is it so thick, though? Feels like you could tow a car with this thing. And then, 2 new earphones. So these are the Buds 2, which look like a very basic pair of £39 wireless earphones. And they feel about as plasticky as you'd expect them to. But I've tested these, and I was not ready for how damn good they sound. Like, very explosive, very bassy, but still clear audio. The active noise cancellation is not the best, but they have all the key features, like auto pause when you take one out, and pretty responsive controls up here. I would actually go as far as to give them a 9.5 out of 10. And then also the Buds 2 Plus, which are £10 more at $49.
What's the best course of action?
And they are basically just a little bit better at everything. They have this smoother texture, this little dimple is made of metal now. They have slightly better sound, they have slightly more noise cancellation, but the standout thing has to be that the battery life is up to 61.5 hours, which is very much up there. Also a 9.5, you can't really go wrong with either. All right, so that's the accessories. Now we just need something to accessorize. So these are the CMF Phone 2 Pros. We've got 3 of the 4 colors. Let's just go for orange.
Let's see what we can get done.
So first thing you see is the insert, which does actually contain a case. Why are budget phones always the most generous? So then the phone, and at the very bottom, this blocky CMF-styled USB-C to C cable, and the also custom, oh my God, seriously, CMF-styled SIM ejector tool, all leading to this one peel.
What do you think they're building here?
Something.
So, what has actually changed since the first phone? Well, if we hold the Phone 2 Pro side by side with the Phone 1, I mean, there's a whole extra third camera, there's a very unique feeling button on the side that they're calling the Essential key, and just generally the body of the phone is a little bit more refined. Kind of like the Phone 1, just to the gym. It's about 5% thinner, it's about 5% lighter, and it's a little curvier, so it doesn't dig into your hands as much. One weird thing is that there are slightly different finishes depending on the color that you pick. Like, they're saying that the green and the black are meant to look glass-like, but in person, I actually don't like them because it's not glass, and in trying to fake glass just feels more like every other budget phone out there. So, let's get rid of these, and we will stick to the orange, because I think they've done a better job here. Whoa. Oh no. No, it looks okay actually. Well, there you go, that's our durability test done. Anyway, long story short, stick to the orange, because it's not glass, and the panel itself is AMOLED. Let's do it the way that I... And the panel itself is AMOLED. It has a one called the Phone 2 Pro side by side with the Phone 1. I mean, there's a whole extra third camera. There's a very unique feeling button on the side that they're calling the Essential key. And just generally, the body of the phone is a little bit more refined. Kind of like the Phone 1, just went to the gym. It's about 5% thinner, it's about 5% lighter, and it's a little curvier, so it doesn't dig into your hands as much. One weird thing is that there are slightly different finishes depending on the color that you pick. Like, they're saying that the green and the black are meant to look glass-like, but in person, I actually don't like them because it's not glass, and in trying to fake glass just feels more like every other budget phone out there. So, let's get rid of these, and we will stick to the orange, because I think they've done a better job here. Whoa. Oh no. No, it looks okay actually. Well, there you go, that's our durability test piece, and we will stick to the orange, because I think they've done a better job here. And in trying to fake glass just feels more like every other budget phone out there. So, let's get rid of these, and we will stick to the orange, because I think they've done a better job here. Whoa. Oh no. No, it looks okay actually. Well, there you go, that's our durability test done. Anyway, long story short, pick the orange. Looks better, it feels better. But here's my big question. How does this fit in with all of this? Well, I got good news and I got bad news. Let's do it the way that I'd want it. Bad news first. So, the way that the Phone 1 worked is the entire back and sides were completely replaceable. You would take these 4 screws and this spinny thing out, and the whole thing would just pop off as one piece. And then for each accessory, you could secure them directly onto the back of the phone using those same few screws. But it's a little different now. You've still got the screws, but the back plate is actually glued onto the phone now. So even if you took all the screws out, nothing comes off, which is what's allowed them to make the phone slimmer. It's what's allowed them to improve the IP rating from IP52 to IP54, which means it's protected from splashing water from any direction, as opposed to water from specific angles. But it also means that you're losing one of the key pieces of DNA that I think made the original so special, which is that you damage the back or the sides of the last phone, who cares? You swap the entire thing out for £29, which meant that you could happily use this phone completely naked, guilt-free. Whereas because this is now stuck on, we're right back to where we are with just about every other phone, which is, well, I should probably use a case now. But then, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of the thinness improvements? Plus, you might not get much choice when it comes to the case. Because while it is very cool that we now have interchangeable camera lenses and this magnetic wallet stand thing, if you want to use them, you need this case. This universal cover is the only way to get the mount that you'd need to attach the lenses into, and this is what has the magnets inside to be able to snap the wallet onto. So this would be its own thing that you're also going to have to buy. And to install it, you got to undo the screws on the back, you got to place this on top of your phone's backplate, and then you redo all the screws on top of it. The point I'm getting to is that if you're planning on using any of these new accessories, which feels not unlikely if you're choosing a phone like this, then you're not going to keep unscrewing and rescrewing this whole cover. You're just going to keep it on. And so what that means is that you've now paid extra to make your phone thicker than the previous device. Also, not to pile on, but I don't even think this magnetic wallet stand thing is worth all that. As far as it being a wallet, it stores, they're saying 3 cards. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting more than 2 in there. And as a phone stand, I feel like I've been spoiled by my Taurus case. This stand has every orientation and every tilt level baked into it. The CMF stand it's just a stand. So that's the bad news. The good news is that because the CMF Phone 2 Pro does still have these screws, and because these screws are in the same positions, the new phone does still have full compatibility with the old phone's accessories. So you could still carry over the old phone stand, or the old wallet, or the old lanyard, and they will still bolt in place in the exact same way. Plus, these interchangeable lenses, they are actually extremely cool, but we'll get to them when we talk about cameras. First though, what's this phone like to actually live with? Well, folks, they've done it again. As far as the phone experience, this keeps everything I loved about the first phone and fixes pretty much everything I felt was lacking. Like NFC. We didn't have it before, we do now. So you can use Google Pay. The storage is not massive, like it starts at 128 gigs, but you can expand it with microSD by up to 2 terabytes. You are getting a display here that does not feel normal for this price. Completely even borders around the edges, which we didn't have on the CMF Phone 1. And the panel itself is AMOLED. It has a 120Hz refresh rate, which can scale down when needed to save battery. Its brightness is not quite flagship, but definitely not budget. Point is, when you watch videos on this thing, it is a high-end viewing experience. It doesn't feel over-sharpened, it doesn't look washed out. It's very close to the best phones you can buy. The speaker isn't. It's a single mono speaker that shoots out from the bottom, but it does have one twist. A new feature called Ultra Volume, where you can go 50% above max volume, which nothing is saying shouldn't damage the speaker as long as you're not going crazy with it and using it all the time. And it does actually make a big difference. Let me give you a real-time demo. So, you're these ears. This is what the phone would normally sound like to you on max volume. Now we're going to go up to boost volume. Hopefully you could tell quite a tangible difference. Battery is stellar. It's the same sized 5000 mAh battery as last time, but just now with a more efficient display and more efficient software. So we're talking 7.5 hours of screen on time if you push the thing, but you could easily make this phone last 2 days if you wanted to. The software is smooth, like really, really smooth. It's smooth enough that you completely forget when you're using this thing that it isn't like an upper mid-range 600-pound device. The only few times you're reminded are when the odd thing takes a little bit longer to load than you were expecting. But that only feels jarring because of how insanely slick the rest of the experience is. It's that sweet spot combination of just good enough hardware. The base model here has 8 gigs of RAM and the MediaTek Dimensity 7300 Pro chip, which is a very modest 5 to 10% faster than what we got before, but still capable enough to play, say, every game on at least medium settings. But that's paired with a lot of care put into optimization. And that's the difference. While for most big companies, budget phones, they're an afterthought because they make a fraction of the profit per phone, you still feel here, as a user of this phone, like your experience has been the first priority. Now that might change in the future. I already get the feeling that nothing is starting to evolve into one of these bigger companies. With tons of product lines, with pro products, plus products, budget versions of products, they've got their own ecosystem. It is, frankly, getting a bit convoluted. But thus far, I haven't seen that affect the quality of the software. Nothing OS is still very light on bloatware, even if I haven't exactly made it look it right now. And you do get 3 years of OS updates, which, by Western standards at least, is very acceptable for a budget phone. And then there are some brand new features. You've now got customizable widgets on your lock screen. You've got this new smart app drawer, which, you know, having installed like 100 applications onto this is extremely clutch. It's done all the organization for me, with now an extra private space for the apps, files, or photos that you don't want anyone else to see. And then we've got this rather curious essential key, which is this very unique feeling rounded glossy button, which does actually help to not get it confused with the power key. So you press this button, it takes a screenshot, and it gives you the option to add a note. You hold this button, it takes a screenshot and lets you give a voice command. And then you double tap this button and it opens up your essential space where all of this stuff is being collected. And I think there is a very useful feature set buried inside of here. Somewhere. I just can't find it. I love the idea. I love the idea that, you know, we're using 50 different apps at this point, and each one has its own way of bookmarking things and trying to save information, which is why this is trying to become the one space that brings together everything that you want to keep and everything that you need to remember. So the company is basically saying, instead of saving that post on Instagram, add it to your essential space, organized into the various different collections that you've created. Instead of opening up Google Calendar to add an upcoming event, just tell your essential space to remind you in 3 hours. You can even, if you open up your camera app and then hit the essential key, take a photo and attach a note. Like, I was looking at London restaurants recently. You can point to one and tell it to remind you to book it on Friday. And it's even got AI built into it that tries to understand what it is that you've just captured, which I assume might help you to organize it in the future. But right now, doesn't feel like it's quite there. It's designed in a little bit of a convoluted way. It works pretty unreliably. Like half the time it doesn't understand me right or doesn't register what I'm trying to ask it to do. And you can't yet organize anything or search through the things that you have saved. It needs more cooking, but it might taste great when it's done. And now, just before we wrap this all up, the time has come to talk about one of the most unique parts of this experience, cameras. So, accessories aside for a minute, because while this is very cool, of course, the key reason that I liked the CMF Phone 1 so much is that even if you had none of the extras, it was still a very polished experience for its price. And the camera was one of the main areas that came through. And so with that in mind, it's actually a little bit crazy just how much the company has further upgraded them here. So, the 50 megapixel main camera on the old phone is still 50 megapixel, but now using a substantially bigger camera sensor. And the difference is immediately obvious. Like side by side with the last already pretty good budget camera, shots are brighter, they're crispier, they have more depth. That fairly useless camera at the top, which was just there to assist the main camera, has been replaced by an 8 megapixel ultra-wide now, which, as you'd probably expect, is not amazing, but it's as good as ultra-wide cameras at this price tend to be. And then completely separate to both of those cameras, there's now a brand new 50 megapixel 2x telephoto camera too. And this is a pretty huge improvement. It gives you basically twice as much power to be able to zoom longer distances, and even more importantly for me, a better quality portrait mode. You're not about to confuse this with a Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra camera. You will notice lag while using it. You will notice bits of jitteriness from the lack of optical image stabilization, and its image processing is not as advanced as more intelligent phones, leading to the odd shots with very obvious over or underexposure. Then again, show me a £200 phone that does it better than this. So, what happens when you add these lenses? Well, for starters, you got the fisheye, which on first glance seems very strange because you put it onto your main camera and it basically turns that main camera into an ultra-wide with almost the exact same field of view as your ultra-wide camera. But then in another way, that's also the upside. You can take ultra-wide shots with the quality of your main camera, although with quite a lot of softness around the edges that does make it feel artsy, but would also probably put me off using it. The second, though, is the macro lens, which is extremely good. It gives your main camera the ability to focus at very close distances. And this is something that you don't really get to see without a lens like this. It's very high-quality close-up photography, like the complete opposite of those tacky 2 megapixel macro cameras that cheap phones used to be famous for. So, here's the download. This is not what I was expecting it would be, but it's every bit as great as I was hoping it would be. What I was expecting when I saw the price was big changes to the way that this accessory ecosystem works and a real level up in terms of what it means you can do, but with the phone itself being largely the same. In reality, kind of the opposite. Like, there aren't that many exclusive new accessories, and I don't think the ones that they have made are particularly game changers, especially because of this whole fiddle with this universal cover that you have to do. But then the phone itself is far more of an improvement than the small price jump would make you think. Especially in this budget segment, things don't usually move this fast, making this, as prophesized, instantly recommendable.
Aha.
What's the best course of action?
Okay.
Ich gehe lieber mal nach.
Whatever you say.
Ich gehe lieber mal nachsehen. War da ein Schatten?
Aha. Aha.
Ruft Alarm aus! Mal sehen, wo er steckt. Mal sehen, wo er steckt.
Agreed.
War da ein Schatten? War das ein Tier oder versteckt sich dort jemand? Gerade ein Schatten?
Yep.
Let's see what we can get done. No death in vain.
Yes. Going. Yep. Moving. Yes. Going. Yep.
Was? Whatever you say.
Uh-huh.
Assistant Public Defender Natalie Pate with and on behalf of Mr. Carr, who stands to my right. Please state your name for the record, sir.
Landon Nathaniel Carr.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. We are respectfully
Let's see
requesting
what
a
we
2
can
to
get
3 week
done.
adjournment to further review the video discovery in this matter with my client.
What do I know?
Afraid that's not happening.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Fine, we'll continue.
Bond issue that
This can't be right. Where are the others? They need to know about this. Utterly impossible.
Glad to assist. Yep. What's next? Let's go. No problem.
Negative. Understood. Can't do.
that in the past there have been threats. Assistant Public Defender Natalie Pate with and on behalf of Mr. Carr, who stands to